So yeah, my name's Elleisha. I just graduated in 2022.
Can't remember what year.
No. um, so yeah, I was pretty apprehensive about starting specialist. It had been presented to me as a very scary subject that was super duper hard. And so I just thought, you know what, I'll do the soft start in year 10. I'll see how that goes. If I like it, I'll do year 11. And then if I really, really want to, I'll do year 12. And I never expected to stay in the subject the whole time. I don't think you did either. No. But I did. I did. And I think it was one of the best decisions I ever made.
What were you most afraid of?
The fear of failure is, it's a really big fear that I think a lot of high achieving students have. And I know I'm not alone in that. And, because going through junior high school and through year 10 where I was getting really, really good results, school was easy for me and I did not struggle at all. And I think knowing that it was going to be a hard subject, it faced me with the idea of having to work harder than I've ever worked before. And that's a very unfamiliar feeling. Yeah. So I think that was what was most scary about it. Yeah.
And so, in the end, you decided you would stay in specialist maths. What went into that decision? How did you end up there?
It's a long journey. So at the very, very start of doing year 11, we did our IA1, which was an assignment, and I poured my heart and soul into that. And I did do very well, but it was too stressful, so I thought I might drop out of the subject. I would do IA2, do the first exam, see how I went in that, but I was expecting I would drop out afterwards. And that was going to happen at the end of term 1. And then COVID came along and delayed it till term 2. And I was like, nah, I'm not doing it. I'm going to drop out. And then for the rest of that term, you managed to convince me to do the exam. So having not studied at all, I walked into that exam and I felt like I did really bad, and I kind of did. But I still passed. And so I realized I can actually do this. If I had studied, I would have actually done pretty well.
When you say study, you don't actually mean study, you mean revised. Because you were studying during the term.
Kind of.
How much time did you put in to your study for specialist?
Yeah, it definitely increases near exam time. I think leading up to that, I hadn't done a whole heap of work, which I would not recommend. Studying as you go is definitely the easier way to do it. But generally before an exam, a few weeks before, you would do a good couple of hours a week. One question might take 45 minutes, so yeah. Good couple of hours in the weeks leading up to an exam for sure.
Did it change your approach from before you were committed to after you were committed to staying? Did anything change?
I think the biggest change would just be my attitude towards the subject. Knowing that I was committed to it meant working harder for it wasn't such a drain because I knew I wanted to stay in the subject. It was a goal I wanted to achieve. So, yeah.
Okay, what's the subject like?
So the subject you've probably heard before. It's a challenging subject, but it's also very, very enjoyable. There are two main factors that contribute to success in specialist, and the first one is the ability to learn quickly. That is very, very important. The content does come very quickly at you. So, that will be easier for some people and it'll be harder for others. But that's where the second factor comes in, and that's your work ethic. If you've got a good work ethic, you can do well in this subject. And that's what it really comes down to. It's only hard if you don't put in the work. I think myself and Keelan, we were the only two in our subject. We ended up having a different opinion of what a hard question was by the end. By the end of grade 12, we decided there's no such thing as a hard question. They're just tricky. With the main difference being the math is really quite simple. You just need to know how to get to that point. So, yeah, it's not so much a hard subject as it is just a tricky one. It uses all of that problem solving skills and all of that kind of stuff. Yeah.
What did you most enjoy?
I think the thing I most enjoyed was being pushed to learn these really complicated topics. And in saying that, I also enjoyed the fact that I couldn't achieve as well as what I usually would. It was really quite a relief to know that I don't have to be getting 90 or 100%. I can get away with, 50, 60, 70%, and you still get a pretty good reward in terms of your ATAR. And it meant I could take the pressure off myself and learn how to learn better without that external pressure of trying to achieve these really high marks.
It's a very interesting perspective. I like it. What did you find most difficult?
The most difficult part was probably coming to the place of realizing that it's okay to not do so well. And also managing time with the subject, because there is a high workload, and with all of your other subjects, there's a lot of work to do. So just managing that. But that's where knowing how to learn quickly is really important.
Was it good or bad to be the only girl?
I don't think it makes much difference. I mean, at the end of the day, whatever class you're in, you're there to learn. So it never bothered me that I was the only girl. And I don't think it should bother anyone, because it's one class. And wherever you go in the workforce, you might be the only female. And that shouldn't deter you from doing something you love as a job.
The boys didn't give you a hard time or anything like that?
No. Became pretty good friends with a lot of them, and we were able to work together and help each other study for the subject. And it was a very productive working relationship. Yeah.
Now you, Elleisha, are now doing something that's not related to specialist maths. Do you think it's still worth doing specialist maths?
Absolutely. So I've just started a Bachelor of Paramedicine, and even within my first few weeks of doing the course, I have noticed that some of the skills I learned in this classroom are actually very, very applicable. The math I will never be using on the road, but one of the biggest lessons you taught me was never make assumptions. You would always tell us to draw our diagrams the way we don't want them to be. And in paramedicine, that's really important. You can't make assumptions about what the patient is experiencing. And you have to come up with all these differential diagnoses. But aside from that, I think, one of the biggest lessons that I learned was to be okay with not doing as well. And for any job, that's so important, because you will inevitably make mistakes. And knowing how to deal with that will increase your resilience and make you a better worker in the long run.
What would you say to Year 10 girls who are doing well in maths, but are not feeling confident that they can do specialist?
I'd probably say give it a try, because you don't know until you try. And, as I was saying before, you might not do as well in this subject, and that's okay. And I think experiencing the challenge of going through a subject that will push you, it's a valuable experience, because it's something that your classmates probably experience every day in all of their other subjects. It's just the first time you're going to experience it. And so all of your peers have these skills of resilience and knowing how to push and push and push to get the grades that they want. And you're going to have to learn that. And it's a great skill to have. And you've probably never had that opportunity before. So I would encourage you to do it. Just give it a try. And you know what? It's a fun subject. It really is. So you might as well try.
Thank you, Elleisha.
No worries.